I would say that chapter 6 is probably, especially up to this point, the most important chapter that we're going to cover in order to understand advertising in context. So how, why do you advertise? What do you advertise? What do you say? How do you say it? And to whom are you speaking? That's kind of the big three right there. I'm going to go through this in a fair amount of detail because you have to really understand this. And this is where, the understanding of marketing and the class you've already taken. And if you haven't, that's not a deal breaker, but you got to really concentrate on this chapter because this is where the fundamentals reside. So here's where we're at. Remember, there's Unit 1, it's the first 4 chapters. Now we're at Chapter 6, Segmentation, Positioning, and Value Proposition. Okay? And then we'll move on from there at, marketing research and then advertising and brand promotion, kind of the application thereof. We're not going to do that. So segmentation targeting. So segmentation, just to choose this first idea, is the process of looking at a market and saying, which group of customers am I going to communicate with in an advertising sense? To whom am I trying to sell? And segmentation of markets are a way to describe the characteristics of the target market. And remember, that's the answer to all questions in marketing. To whom am I speaking? Especially in advertising. Who's my target? If I'm trying to, for example, if you were asked to give talk about advertising or marketing to a group of people, your first question should be, to whom am I speaking? You might talk about the same ideas, but if you're speaking to a group of middle school kids versus a group of business owners, the level of detail, the words you use, the illustrations you use are going to be vastly different. It might be fundamentally the same ideas, but understand, if you can't describe your target market, you're just guessing. So that's exactly what we're after. So when we target a market, it's after it's segmented. Segmented market is one that's profiled. To whom are we speaking to? So, and think about it. One of my favorite examples is expensive jewelry, like a watch, a handmade, a Rolex watch. That's a market segment that is distinct from, say, you go to Walmart and buy the cheapest plastic watch you can get. Well, that's meant for a different group of customers. The product is the same. It does the same thing, technically speaking. It keeps time. But the price point is vastly different. Therefore, to whom you are speaking is vastly different. And what you're going to say and how you're going to say it is vastly different. So advertising is expensive. Not everybody wants what you're selling. We need to identify and stick to that, the idea of who we're selling to. And that's how we're going to base our communication, our advertising. Let's continue on. So when we position a product, okay, so like the Rolex versus the cheapest watch you could get, both keep time. Positioning is what we're doing when we communicate to the target market. We are trying to position in their minds the characteristics and the fundamental attributes of that product as the position. So it could be premium, best there is. And these aren't right or wrong. These are just choices you're making because you're going to build the product to fit the market you're selling to. A meal is a meal, but a meal at a fancy sit-down restaurant with tablecloths, candles is a different experience than McDonald's. And so we have three ways essentially to position a product. Well, actually 4. But so product. The product in the 4 Ps. Products is the attributes, the characteristics, the level of performance, the level of promise. Are we a Rolex or are we a Timex? Nothing wrong with them, but they're 2 different positions in the market's mind. So we're trying to cement that. Pricing. If we're a premium product, we carry a premium price because it not only does it communicate to the target market that, hey, we're in a different zone than we were with another offer. Okay, you expect to pay more for premium brands. Distribution, where and how we distribute, is part of that as well. A full service jewelry store, high-end jewelry store, is a different proposition than going to nothing. Again, that's not a judgment. It's just different than a Walmart. And then then advertising or promotion becomes the way we're going to communicate those attributes of the product, the price that it carries with it, which is a signal to the market as to the quality, the relative quality, and where and how you're going to buy. You're going to make distribution decisions. So this idea of position is different than place. Place is where you sell and how you sell it, physically make contact with the market. Position is the position in the target market's mind. It's critical that you understand those two things, because this is what you're going to do in advertising. So you segment a market, and there's lots of different ways to do it. And here's kind of the big four. But you're going to want to, again, study these very carefully. So usage patterns, commitment levels, how much time we're going to spend looking for a product, shopping, high involvement versus low involvement. High involvement being more expensive, bigger risk in making a bad decision. Low involvement, like candy bars. Demographic data is things that are easy to count: age, income, male, female, location, that would be geographic, education, demographic data. Okay, so read up on the psychographic and lifestyles. Psychographic is the psychology. So in the chapter before this, we talked about consumer behavior. That's psychographic. And that would be, how is this going to make you feel when you buy it? Why would anybody spend $20,000 on a watch, or $20,000 on a wedding for that matter? Well, because that's what we want to. It speaks to who we see ourselves or how we see ourselves. So it's the psychology behind this, very powerful. And then lifestyle. And income is part of it too in the demographic, but that very important part. But just because you make a lot of money doesn't mean you consume the same things, because lifestyle matter. You might be a plumber and make $1 million a year, and your lifestyle is one of camping, fishing, and hunting. Okay, someone else who does more of a white collar job, their lifestyle, their idea of camping is going to a Hilton or something like that, or more exclusive clubs or resorts and things. So it's lifestyle. And then benefits. What exactly do we want it to do for ourselves? I like that one the best because it cuts across a lot of lines. But benefits sought. What are we looking for? Well, how is this going to make us feel? That's part of it. But also, what's it going to do? Why would you buy an expensive car when a cheap one will get you from point A to point B? Okay, well, because it's more than just what it does. It's how it makes us feel. Spend a lot of time on this, making sure you understand. Usage and commitment level. So the chapter then goes through describing these in detail. Read this very carefully. Take notes. Switchers, variety seekers. This is behavioral. It tends to be difficult to get people to switch from one brand to another, because once your patterns of consumption become kind of set, even at your young age, they set up very quickly. Doritos addresses the consumer need for variety with flavor variety and related integrated brand promotion. Okay, it's all the same brand, but variety. Look at Tide and Crest toothpaste. It's kind of same idea. So demographics, things that, and again, so I'm not going to go through all these. You can read this, but understand what demographics means. It's a way to describe groups of people. It's a profile. So age of big data. Big data is just the amount of information being pulled from social media and other data sources that help describe the consumer. And that's the primary source of our research. We'll talk about that more in a little bit in the next chapter. Some consumers may perceive marketing differently when they feel stigmatized, which is they can create challenges for marketers. So tobacco, alcohol, things like that might be part of it. geographic location, geodemographic segmentation. You can segment a lot of different ways. So it's what you choose, the more detailed the information. Anything like psychographic and lifestyle would be much more behavioral. So high-end products would be, they call them lifestyle products for a reason. If you go to resorts and ski, that's a lifestyle choice. Okay. Lifestyle segmentation. So all of these are viable. It just depends on the type of product that you're talking about. Benefit. This is, again, one I like a lot because it speaks to what it does for you. I mean, what's the value proposition of certain vehicles? Well, it might be safety. It's kind of like the value proposition is that thing that separates it, that differentiates it from other offers, their competitive advantage. Critical. Consumer B2B markets, we're not going to talk about B2B so much right at this instant, but B2B does not use the same variables. We use the same 4 Ps, product, price, place, promotion, but B2B is a different animal in that we've got professional buyers. So that's kind of a critical difference. Identifying segments criteria, prioritizing segments for target marketing. Again, this is all about to whom are we selling? And we use these variables to describe the target market. Then it helps us formulate advertising, market communication, because we want to speak to them in ways that are value, that they see and understand the value that we're trying to present. Truly gets the power of integration of great branding. Okay, so we're after, what are we saying? The images and things like that. What's it supposed to do? How's it supposed to act? How does it make us feel? Ultimately, whatever we buy is a reflection of how we see ourselves. Positioning strategy. So elements of effective, read this very carefully. Main idea of targeting is to efficiently deliver the branding effort to the chosen segments. To whom are we selling? Now, we might sell to more than one segment at a time, but there's still a differentiation there. Positioning, brand positioning it's hard to change this. So we need to understand what gives it meaning, like Apple Computer or Nike or any other national brands. Okay, I think that's probably value proposition for brands. Let's just look at that for just very briefly here. So the strategic branding triangle, identify and profile target markets. That's step 1. Consolidate the value proposition of the brand. Understand it. Select the mix of persuasion tools. How are we going to, remember, we need to inform. That's the positioning, but then persuade that what we say is accurate, true, and that the target market should find value in it. Okay, again, read this chapter very carefully. Take notes. Understand it as best you can, and this will, if you get this well, it will make everything 100 times easier. So, take care.